You're live. You're live.
Awesome. Okay. Sorry, everyone, for the delay. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty earlier, but we are good to go now. Welcome back to another episode of Joe Knows. I have Chanel Shaba with me, and we're going to talk about a little bit about mortgages again today, and then we will kind of flip it back and talk about how estate planning works along with home ownership and Chanel's experience with using me and my services. So, Chanel, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Chanel Shaba. I am the CEO and broker owner of Beyond Lending. We are a mortgage company in Bloomfield Hills.
And why don't you give people your contact information so they can contact you when they need your services?
Of course. So, whether it's me or it's anybody on my team, you can reach us at our office line. It's 248-686-2072 or 248-686 2082. And then my direct cell phone number for anyone who needs to contact me, or if text messaging works best for you, please feel free to call me at 248-330-6475.
Okay. And I know recently, the market for housing, maybe from the time of the pandemic starting up until a few months ago, everything was just going crazy, booming. And ever since interest rates have started rising, the market has changed. Why don't you kind of let people know about that a little bit?
So anything that regards banking, finance, mortgages, it's an ever-changing industry, right? You have to learn to um, change your business based on the shift in the market. So what we have seen in the last 2 years is that housing prices have gone super high. Rates were super low. They were all-time low in like the last 25 years. And then in the last year, they've risen, right? So since November of 2021, rates have been going up. Home values are still high. People are still buying at a high amount. So that's not going anywhere, but rates have continued to rise. And the reason for that is due to inflation. So for us, we have to be able to sell those clients who before wanted, a $600,000 house at 3%. They might not qualify for that anymore. We have to see what we can get them into now. And that might be something around 350 to make sure that we're capitalizing on the payment. And we want to make sure that financially they're secure. So it's been a tough market, right? It's been a lot of change. We've also had to learn how to, change people's minds because people were scared. A lot of people were scared to buy. They're like, we don't know what's going to happen. Rates are going up. We're going to expect them to go down. There's going to be a crash. And unfortunately, since COVID, there hasn't been a crash. And we don't expect there to be a crash because the banks are financially stable right now where, we see that the market's continuing to rise, but those who are eligible for those homes, they still want to buy. So I was talking about this actually this morning. These are the last like 3 months have been our busiest months all year. We have had so many buyers. We have had so many people understand that this is the new normal,
Right.
right? Unfortunately, yes, the rates are high, but this is the new normal. And and if you look at it the opposite way, is it was special circumstance the last 2 years.
Yes.
So when has that ever happened? And
That's,
could it ever happen again? Probably not, because we don't want to be in a global pandemic
yes.
again. Like no
Yes.
one wants to go through
Yes.
COVID again. But we do look at it in the sense of if the rates are, right now sitting at 7%, it is what it is. I tell everybody if you like the house, get the house. It's pretty much like worst case scenario because if rates do go down, we're only going to save you money later,
Right.
right?
Yeah. That's the thing is like always during a transition period, people are skeptical. So you miss out in that window of during the transition period, and the people that can foresee it, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, where you can say, I think the rates are going up, so let me buy now. Or I think the housing market is going to drop and I'm going to sell now and buy later or whatever. And if you get it right and you have the right guidance in front of you, you can capitalize on it. But during that transition period of there's always a lag, right? Like
Hmm.
the first 3 months that you're transitioning, people are scared. They don't know what's going to happen. And so they want to hold off. But then at some point it clicks and you're like, you know what? You're right. I need to do something now. And then
Hmm.
that's where we're at right now, what you're saying.
So I've been doing this for I don't know, 7 years strictly mortgages, but I've been in the financial world and in the banking industry for over 12. And what I can tell you is COVID. So March 2020, everything was on hold, right? And even for realtors, they couldn't even show homes. They couldn't show homes, I think, until like the end of May or June,
Yeah, it was a while.
because no one could do anything. And that's when people got scared and people were like, crap, what are we going to do? How do we get a house? We want to move. We don't want to be stuck in this house. We don't want to be isolated. And people thought there was going to be a crash. So I know it's crazy to think that COVID was 2 years ago,
Oh,
over
yes.
2 years ago,
Yeah.
but it's like funny to me because I'm like, all those people 2 years ago who thought there was a crash, where's it? It's not
Yes,
here.
right. Yeah.
It's only going up. So they missed out on a boat. And that's okay. It's okay if you missed out on it, but don't miss out again.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like if
Exactly.
you find it, get it. If you can,
Yeah.
like at the same time, if there's an investment property you want and you want to start renting or you want to start becoming that investor, don't wait, because we don't know. Nobody has a crystal ball.
What I tell people with any decision that they make is don't be greedy,
Mhm.
right? So like if, for example, a house is 100,000 and you think it's worth only 95,000 or 90,000 or 80,000 or whatever the number is, right? Like at some point you have to say like, this is good enough, right?
Mhm.
Like don't wait. You're not going to get the $100,000 house for $5,000. That's not going to happen.
Right.
But if you're close enough, that difference over 30 years is not worth fighting over if that's the house you want. Now, you can be picky
It's a
when
great way
you
of
are,
thinking about it.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Perfect way.
right? Like, okay, you're buying a $300,000 house, but you're saying, you know what, they want 310, but I'm going to try to squeeze them and get 300, which is great. I'm not saying not to save money, but like, is that $10,000 really going to make a difference over 30 years of you being in that house? Probably not. You're not going to feel it. The payment is very minimal.
Payment's very
Yeah.
minimal on
So
that.
so I always tell people don't be greedy with
Yeah.
anything, right? Like this is a good enough deal. And if you have the right people in your corner, you know, you don't want to spend 400,000 for the $300,000
Of
house.
course.
But if you have the right person in your corner and you're overspending by just a little bit, it's not, I mean, don't be greedy. Because then that 310 mark might be 320 or 330 in the next month or 2 or 3 months or whatever. And now you're missing out and you're costing yourself money by being too picky.
Right. And you have to look at it also on the seller side too. Like a lot of sellers in the last 2 years were getting offers that were over asking, right?
Yeah.
So if there was a $400,000 house for sale, so many people wanted that house that they were taking the highest and best, and maybe that came in at 450. So people were paying 50,000 over asking to get that
Yes.
home, and we're not in that market anymore. So
Yeah.
buyers are happier because they're like, thank God I don't have to like make up
Appraisal
that
waivers
difference. Yeah, I don't
and
have
like
to
your
do all
firstborn
that.
kid and all this stuff.
Exactly. Like literally, I have to give you everything just to get this deal done. So it's in my opinion,
Yeah.
it is a better market all around.
Okay.
Right? Because last year it was a really tough. The last 2 years it was a really tough market for the buyers.
Yes.
Where the sellers were.
You don't
doing
want it
great.
to be, you don't want it to be extreme. You don't want it to be
Mhm.
a seller's market. You don't want it to be a buyer's market. You want it to be in the 80% range of
Yep.
like, it's fair. This is the going price, whatever. You're not screwing people over on this side. You're not screwing people over on this side type of thing.
And you also want, like, for on the realtor side, like you also want to educate your sellers to list their homes appropriately, because in this market right now, if an appraisal does come in low, then the buyer can say, well, forget it.
Yes.
Because
Right.
now there's another house down the street, or there's another house in that neighborhood or in that community that I can grab, knowing now what these houses are worth. And sellers are, it's a mentality change for the sellers to say, all right, do I just accept
Right.
this price, or no, I need to find the next buyer? But then again, it's like, but then all buyers are having that mentality right now.
Yeah. And you have to think about it. Usually in that case, the buyer, if they wanted it, they would have to come out of pocket to pay the difference on what the appraisal was and the value of the house that they
Right.
agreed
And
on.
some people do.
Right. But
We have a lot of those.
yeah, you have a lot of them. But I feel like right now, people are not expecting or prepared for that as much, because though all the people that were qualified to be able to do that probably bought a house in the last 2 years.
Not only that, with rates a little bit higher,
Yeah.
it's like the money that they weren't expecting to use
Exactly.
is now
Yes.
going towards a monthly payment
Yes.
versus
Right.
going towards a bigger down payment.
Yes.
So it's like I like to educate my clients. I don't sell. We don't sell people. I will of course do what's best for the client, but like our team does not like go aggressive on rates and mortgage payment, because we look at the financial benefit overall, right? And that's why like we work so well together too, is because we look at an entire portfolio of somebody and we say, okay, here's where the mortgage sits, here's how much money you make, here's where your assets are, here's where your investments are. How do we guide you not only for the next year, because you're buying this house and you have to set yourself up for 12 months of payments, or 3 years of payments, but how do we set you up long term, where if you choose that this is not the house, what's going to be the next one? How do we get your
Right.
investments in line? How do we, so we look at it in a sense of, this is your biggest buy. How do we get your biggest buy to be comfortable, right? Where you're not spreading
Right.
yourself so
I know.
thin with a mortgage payment because you want to live a lifestyle or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But then how do we also capitalize on that money so that we can get you into investments and we can get you into just a better portfolio and just
Yeah.
a nice wallet?
Yeah. Or with estate planning, protecting your home.
Right.
So that's another thing too, is like, so after somebody buys a house, you want to protect it from going to
Mhm.
probate court. And I was at an event recently, and the lack of education in this area with estate planning, especially when you're younger, people think they're invincible, right? So I went to this event, I was talking to somebody. He said, yeah, I just bought a house. I'm like, congratulations. I was like, who's on the title of the house? Is it just you? And he said, yeah. I'm like, you should probably get an estate plan.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm 26.
Well,
Like,
Joe, that was
I know.
our conversation.
Yeah.
That's literally what happened between you and I.
Yeah. He's like, I'm 26. I'm like, so what is your point? I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is that you have to understand is that you don't know when your time is going to come. And
it's
getting,
mortality. Like it's going to happen.
yes, yeah,
That's
it's guaranteed that you're
Yeah.
going to pass away. So it's like, the the amount of money that you're going to spend to just protect that asset initially, and then you can feel comfortable knowing that if that day comes today, tomorrow, in a year from now, 10 years from now, hopefully people live as long as they can, 100 years old. No, I'm just saying, like, you don't know when that's going to be. And so just take care of, and the thing is like, people don't know that they don't know. So what does that mean? People, like with the mortgage industry, people are like, I can't afford a house. You're like, what do you mean?
Why? You're paying
You're like,
rent.
no,
You're paying someone.
right. But the thing, but they have this, they don't know what the process is like. They've never done it. They don't understand it enough, right? And so they think without asking that they can't do it. And because they haven't asked. Once they ask, they'll know whether they can or they can't. You'll tell them, like, no, your credit score is not good enough.
Right.
You need to improve it. Or you don't have enough money for a down payment. You need to get more money, or whatever it is. And then you'll know if you can or you can't. Same thing with me. Come to me, and then I can tell you, this is what you need. You bought a house. All that you need is, in that case, is possibly a deed that will take care of that house. God forbid, if you pass away, it will automatically go to your family without them having to go to probate court. You might need more. You might need a trust. You might need other documents, but I'll explain it to you and say, these are the 2 or 3 different options that you have. Now you know what you might need. Now you know the cost of having those things and what the benefits are. And if you choose to do it, great. I would want you to be protected. And if you choose not to do it, at least I feel better that I explained it to you and you are making the choice of whether or not you want that thing.
Yeah. And you have to it's a sound decision, right? And that's what loops all of this together well, right? So like we would set you up with that mortgage. We would let you know, hey, we're going to be putting the deed in your personal name. We do have the option of putting it into a trust, but is your trust even set up?
Right.
Is it set up properly?
Yes, exactly.
Like, do you know what happens if, God forbid, you do pass away and you don't have a trust? So those are not common questions.
No, they're not.
Right. And that's where we loop in our estate planner. That's where we say, hey, I can set you up with an appointment with him, and we make it an experience that, again, is beneficial not only for the mortgage person and the realtor, but beneficial most importantly for the client.
Yes.
To have the security and to know, like, I know what I'm doing now.
Right.
And God forbid something happens to me, like everything's already planned out. So the court can't dictate what happens.
Exactly.
I already did it with my attorney, and this is what the court has to rule by.
Right. And that's the thing too, is like, um, people do, because I see this all the time. People will do whatever they can do to get a house, but then they fail the next step, which is protecting the house, right? Like,
Mhm.
okay, when you're trying to buy a house, the first thing you think about is, okay, I have to go talk to the mortgage person to be able to qualify for a mortgage. The next thing, because you're kind of forced to do it, is to talk to a home and insurance person,
Mhm.
because you have to get insurance on the property to be able to buy it,
Correct.
unless you're buying it in cash, right? Which is not likely.
Right.
And because you're forced to get the homeowner's insurance, you have to go through that process. So you're protecting the house because you're forced to do it.
Well, how do I protect me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know. But people don't think about it, and they don't get led
How do I protect my family?
they don't get led down that road
Yeah.
of like, hey, what happens to you if you get sick, if you're in a coma,
Mhm.
or whatever the reason is? How's your family going to sell the house?
Who's going to make
Who's
the
going to pay it?
decision?
Who's going to pay it? Who's going to
Right.
make the decision, right? So you don't want the wrong family member, because what happens in probate court is all of the people that are close to you are going to go in and talk to the judge. And so somebody that looks good on paper, brother, sister, mother, father, whoever, is going to come there and look good on paper for the 10, 15, 20 minutes that they're in front of the
Mhm.
judge, and probably convince them that they're the right person to make those decisions.
And of
And
course, we
now,
hope that that is the right person,
right,
right? Like
right. No, I
we
know.
pray and we hope that like that's
Yes.
the person who's going to handle your endeavors after you're, incapacitated or mentally unstable, whatever it may be. We hope that that's the right person. But what if it's not?
Exactly. Then now you have somebody in control that shouldn't be in control.
Right. This
And
reminds me of Britney Spears.
oh,
Sorry.
yes. Yeah. That's what it is.
It
That is
reminds
exactly
me
what
of
it is.
someone who's like, I don't even know what I can do or I can't do because my dad handles everything. And then the dad is like
Taking advantage of
yeah.
stuff. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's the thing, is
Yeah.
like, you need to have these things put in place properly. Do it yourself when you can, because when you can't, you're not going to have control over that.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about control. It's like, there are ways of transferring your property, especially your house, to a family member and getting them the money to pay it off. What if they're a minor? What if you have a 10-year-old kid, or 3 kids or whatever, they're all minors? How are they going to pay the mortgage?
Right.
We
Right.
can get the house to their trustee or their guardian or the conservator of your estate without them having to go through the process. But how are they going to pay for it? They might be forced to sell the property.
So it's funny you say that. And I had that happen to me when I was 19. So when I was growing up, 14 years old or so, my parents got divorced.
Okay.
And my dad had his own home, my mom had her own home, right? Which great, like no problems. My mom got remarried in 2005. I was
Okay.
19. And then my dad also passed later in 2005, right? So I'm
Okay.
still 19. And my dad had no will, he had no estate, he had nothing written down for number one, where his money was, number
Oh,
two,
yes.
what what's going to happen to his home or his assets or all of his businesses. We had no idea. Mind you, I'm a 19-year-old girl, right? Because my parents weren't married, so nothing technically would go to my mom. So as a 19-year-old, I had to learn all this stuff. And I sat back one day with our attorney. It wasn't you at the time. You were probably you were probably 15. No, I'm just kidding.
I was a
but
little older,
but we sat with our attorney and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, how come he never handled this?
Yeah.
Why didn't anyone ever educate my dad into what happens when you're not here? You have 3 young girls, you're not married. And even if he is married, like maybe his wife doesn't even know either.
Yes.
So I had to learn, and I had to go through probate at 19. I was young, right? And my sisters were still minors. So my mom had to be a representative for them. So my mom and I were making all these decisions. And I'm telling you, like $1 million decisions that I had no business making. But luckily enough, like I did it. And I had my mom holding my hand and a great attorney holding our hands. But like, we had to go through that. And I was like, this is the worst thing ever.
Because you're going through it at a time that you shouldn't be going through it, right? Yeah.
Your heart is somewhere, your mind
Yes.
is somewhere. You have to turn one off.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
If you turn your mind off, you're making decisions based on emotion. If you turn your heart off, you're making logical decisions, but then you're probably hurting other people because they're like, wait, why are you making
Yes.
these
Yes.
choices?
Yep.
So with that, we went through our probate, right? And it took us a year and a half. Had we had a trust or had he had a will, it wouldn't have taken,
Right.
it wouldn't even have
Yes.
gone that way. It just
Yes.
all would have been handled through that
Yep.
paperwork process that he already completed. And unfortunately, he didn't. So I'm going to fast forward. So, like, when I was in like 2016, I got married. I still didn't have a trust. I still didn't have a will or anything. And not that I thought anything would happen between my husband and I, but of course, then the conversation comes up between my sisters and I of, well, if God forbid something happens to you, then does your stuff go to him? Because I didn't have kids. So it's like, who gets like all the stuff that we've built or dad built, and then it got passed on to us?
Yep.
Who does it then go to? And I said, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah. And that's why, like, for me, especially working with me, I work closely with my clients where I'm not just your lawyer, I'm like a friend to you.
Mhm.
And I notice when there are major life events of when you need to know,
something.
yeah, when you need to change something. So I'll reach out to you. So like I have clients that I created their estate plan, then they buy another house, and I'm like, congratulations on buying your house. Now come talk to me so we can work on your
Right.
on updating your stuff.
Right.
Because they don't know, even though I tell them, I educate people and say, when you buy a house, when you get a new business, when blah 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 happens, you need to contact me. You're not thinking of that at that time. You're happy that you bought a house.
Right.
I know that. But I also am happy that you bought a house, but also I'm
wanna
looking out for
protect
you and
you.
saying, look, we
Yeah.
got to add it to your estate plan. Let's do it now, and then you're done. Just add it as if it's part of the buying process, and that's it.
Well, so I'm going to go back to my situation. So then I got divorced, right? And then the questions rise again. Crap.
Now I have
What happens?
Yeah.
All like same thing. Like I got married. I have these businesses. I have ownership share in this. I have that, whatever it is. What does my ex get? You know, like, does he get that money? Does he not? So that was a whole nother story. But luckily, no, like everything stayed as it was. But now as I've grown up, right, and I've invested in more businesses and I've invested in properties and I have mortgages and whatever it may be, I had to sit with Joe and I had to explain, like, Joe, I need to protect not only my interests, but I need to protect my sister's interests and make sure that, like, if I get married, if I have kids, then we can revisit everything. But everything that is between my sisters and I needs to stay in that circle so that they don't feel like they might lose, right?
Right.
And same with them, like they might get married too. So we need to make sure that all of our business assets and all of our that portfolio is handled the right way so that what my dad did leave for us that we continue to build on, it still grows and it's still within us and it doesn't get passed on to people that shouldn't have access to it,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
And you did it perfectly because I'm probably like the worst client. I'm the best client because I'll do whatever you tell me to do, but I'm the worst client because my response time is like, sure, whatever you want, whenever we can do it. And then he's like, okay, I can do it tomorrow. And I'm like, no, wait, I can't do it tomorrow. So can we do it in 2 weeks? But long story short, we completed my estate and then I had to sit with my family and I had to explain, like, these are the decisions that I made with my attorney. Here's his contact information. God forbid anything happens to me tomorrow. This is all, it's already planned out. You guys don't have to worry about anything. You know, you don't have to worry about like what I had to go through, 17, 18 years ago. You don't have to go through that. And my sister sat back and they're like, can you do ours too? I'm like, no, hell no. You guys go, you stay with him, you do it yourself. Not that you guys have like I handled so much that
Yeah.
I'm like, I already did most of our stuff. Now, like Raquel, my sister is married and she has kids. I'm like, now you and Pierre need to sit together. You need to sit with an attorney and you figure out everything that you guys have aside from our like sister stuff. And you guys make sure that God forbid something happens to Pierre, Raquel is protected. The kids are protected. God forbid something happens to both of you. The kids are protected, whether it's, me taking care of the kids, whether it's me making the financial decisions or his mom or his sister making those decisions. The the estate portion is so important because you can, God forbid something happens to one of my clients' spouse and they call me and say, Chanel, what do we do now? And I'm going to tell them, do you have any legal paperwork? And they're going to tell me no. And I'm going to say, you have to go to probate court.
Yep.
I can't do anything for you. The lender won't do anything for you. You need to take this to court to determine where it goes. And then we help you from there. And those processes, again, I went through a year of that. Those processes generally can be, I mean, depending on how much it is, what, 3 months, 6 months, maybe
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah.
So why?
Yeah, I
Like,
know. And the thing too is like, okay, think about during the mortgage process, right? You
Mhm.
want the house. You're excited to get the house. Think of how much of a pain in the butt it is to get all the documents over to the mortgage loan officer, right?
just do it all at once.
Yeah. I know, but I'm saying like you guys now the process might be a little bit easier, but before you would have to give 2 months of bank statements, last 2 paycheck stubs, all this stuff that you have to go through to give, and you're like, this is so annoying, but I really want the house, so I'll do it. And then you're probably calling people and saying, where are you guys at? I need to get these documents from you, W-2s, tax returns, whatever. And you actually want that item, and it's a pain in the butt to do sometimes. Imagine going through that and even more documents that are not yours that you have to find when you're grieving the loss of a loved one.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Right.
That's how I can explain
That's
to people.
and it's sad to think about it.
It is.
Right? It's touching, it's very sad to think about because again, it's mental and emotional, and you gotta at some point be like, how do we gotta execute, we gotta go, right? We gotta figure this out. But then at the same time, it's like, but I'm in pain, right?
Right.
I'm figuring something out. So if you handle it when you're strictly logical, when you handle it when there's no outside noise, and you don't have people coming at you saying, what are you doing about this? What are your kids, what's gonna happen with the kids? What's gonna, what are you gonna do about your mortgage? As a woman who maybe you're not working, like, how are you going to pay this mortgage now? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Like,
or not even
those
that too.
situations.
Not even that. It's like when you're thinking logically, now you have these people that are coming in and giving you advice,
and you don't know who to trust,
and you're young and you don't, yeah, exactly. You don't know who to trust. You don't know what the options are, right? Like, let's say a person comes to you and says, you should do option A, but they don't give you option B, C, or D. So you're like, oh yeah, that this person said to do that. And then you just go ahead and do it, not realizing that you're taking the wrong decision. Right. Like I work with a title company, and they had an issue with somebody passed away, and the trustee was trying to move the title of the property into her own name through the probate process when they didn't get a court order to be able to do that.
So can you do that?
You're not supposed to be able to do that, no, unless you got permission to do it. Yeah. Well,
I don't know
if the trustee. Okay, so like for example, with me, it's like if I had one kid and that kid is the trustee and they're also the beneficiary only, then at that point, yes, they would be able to do it, right? But if you're the trustee and the beneficiary is person A, B, and C, and you're not either any of those people, you can't just move it into your name.
Right. So for those who don't know what a deed is it is something that's recorded with the county that shows who owns this property and who has full rights to this property.
Right.
So to piggyback on what he's saying is, if you are a trustee and you're the only beneficiary, it would be fine because you're the only person who gets that house. But if you're a trustee and there's 4 beneficiaries because you have 4 kids or you have 4 siblings or whatever it may be, then if you move that deed into your own personal name, those 4 people have no rights to that house, which is not okay.
Exactly. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So it depends on the situation because every situation is different.
Right.
But in this particular instance, she was moving it under her own name to work on some stuff. I don't know all of the details, but she didn't have permission to do that. That's what it was. So
then does she have to, let's just say that she needed to do that. Actually, hold on. Let's go backwards. What's the difference between a revocable and an irrevocable trust?
Yes. So a revocable trust, 99% of trusts that are created are going to be revocable.
That's what I have.
Yes. Okay. So what happens is you are the grantor. You put a property in the trust. You have permission to take it out of the trust.
Right.
it's revocable. You can revoke that decision.
Okay.
You can put an asset in, you can take an asset out.
So I can change anything at any time while
Exactly.
I'm alive.
Yes.
Okay.
As soon as you pass away, it becomes irrevocable.
Okay.
Nobody can make changes to it. They cannot take the assets out unless the documents say this person is the beneficiary and they're allowed to take the assets out for that beneficiary.
Got it.
So
So I've seen people who are alive send me revocable. I've had clients who, are buying a new home or refinancing and they have an irrevocable trust.
Yes.
Why do they have an irrevocable trust while they're still alive?
Yeah. So there's different reasons for having an irrevocable trust. It's sheltering your asset. So when you put it in an irrevocable trust, you're saying this is no longer mine.
Okay.
And you're taking that asset out of your name and putting it into this entity.
Okay.
So that you can shelter it from your personal ledger, so that if you needed Medicaid or some kind of other benefit where they look at your assets,
that has nothing to do with
that's not
it.
yours anymore.
Okay.
It only comes into play mostly in two situations. One situation is if you need government assistance and they're looking at your assets
and they see you have $1 million
and they see you have $1 million, that you're probably not going to get the government assistance, right?
Right.
But if you no longer have that asset and it's not accessible to you because you're not able to revoke
so if you
it,
no longer have the $1 million because it's in a irrevocable trust, you can
Yes.
still get those benefits.
Correct.
And whatnot.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. That's one way of doing it. The other way is for tax purposes. If you're in a very high tax bracket, so it's very rare for people to do it for this purpose, but if you're in a very high tax bracket, you can shelter off some of your tax liability by moving it into an irrevocable trust and saying, that's not my money.
And you can help with all that.
And I can help
and
with all
you
that.
can help clients know, like, we need to put you into an irrevocable
Yes.
or revocable based on your assets, based on how much money you have, based on your tax bracket.
Yep.
You'll guide them into.
Yes.
So why am I in a revocable trust?
Because 99%
I'm broke.
99% of the time. 90,
That's why I'm in a revocable trust.
I'm in a revocable trust too.
Okay, good. Thank God. It makes me feel better.
I'm gonna put you in the right setup. Okay.
Okay.
So once it,
Fine. I trust you.
yeah, once it gets into the area where you need one of those things where it's government assistance, or you can say, I can afford to get rid of this asset and never see it again. That's when you need
irrevocable.
yes. Right.
Okay.
So once you get into that situation where you can do that, then you can come talk to me.
I don't know.
I'll do one for myself
too.
Lottery. Yes. There you go.
This is a good question. If I hit the lottery and I hit $70 million,
yeah,
then I can put that in my trust and I can change it into an irrevocable trust and then no one can touch it.
We would come with an irrevocable
Let's
trust.
go.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. We would work with that.
Let's do it.
I can make it work with 70 million.
Yes. Right now. No, that's a really good information because I've seen the two, right? I honestly didn't know how deep of a difference it is between the two. So now that I do know, that's good.
Yeah.
And then also, again, on our end, because we do a lot with title work and we do a lot on the mortgage side pertaining to who's going to be on title and, do you want it in a trust? Do you not want it in a trust? This information helps us know, what route that client has already gone on and where they want to continue to go.
Right. And then that's another thing too, is so a trust becomes irrevocable upon the death of the last grantor. So if you're a single individual, when you pass away, it becomes irrevocable. For me and my wife, upon the death of the last surviving spouse.
In order for it to be irrevocable, you and your wife,
yes,
God forbid, have to pass.
Yes.
And then the next successor comes in line and they just handle everything that was already written down for them to do.
Yes.
So they can't change anything at that point.
And that's what that trustee that I was saying, she was trying to put it under her name.
Yeah, we can't do that, girl.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. It's like that's not what was written down. If it was written down that you could do that, then sure, go ahead and do it. But you can't do that.
Good to know. That's really good, beneficial information.
Yeah. So that's what I think. And then another thing too is like with me, using me for your estate planning services. You're not just getting me for doing that. I do a lot of other stuff as well. And I try to link you up with the right person that can take care of certain situations for you as well. Right. And so
your network is huge.
Yeah.
And I know this from experience.
Yeah.
So anytime I have a problem, I'm like, Joe, I know you're an
that's
attorney, but
yeah.
I need ABC done. And he's like, okay, no problem. Call this person, this person, this person, this. I'm like, why do you just know like
Yeah,
right away?
I have a lot of people, and I try
Yeah.
to take care of you in those situations too, right? And so like in Chanel's situation, a lot of people only look at the initial cost of doing the documents.
Mhm.
They don't understand, and I use that to be honest, I use that as a barrier thing. I'm not the least expensive attorney, but I'm not the most expensive
Right.
attorney, and I want you to be able to trust me enough and be willing to pay me what is a fair value initially, because I give you so much value after that. Within a week or so of Chanel finalizing her documents, I worked on some other stuff for her, and she actually saved more money on the
Mhm.
other stuff that I worked on than she paid me for the estate planning.
I
So
was like, I was like, I don't care. Literally, I was
yeah,
like, I don't care what it is. Just can you please handle this one thing for me? And he handled it. And I was like, and I don't care what I have to pay you. Like, just
yeah,
because for me, and a lot of people also, we're in a world right now where convenience is key, right? So, especially like in the mortgage industry, a lot of stuff has turned into electronic, right? You can
yeah,
do applications online, you can upload your documents to a portal. I never have to see you. I never have to shake your hand, even though we
yes,
want to, like, we still want that in-person connection. But a lot of stuff, like, I want to say maybe in the last like 10 years has turned into convenience, right? People will pay a little extra for that convenience. Yes, people do want to save money, but if it's worth your dollar to get it done and have it just out of the way, to me it's worth it. And I saw something which I feel like everyone's seen lately because it's been popping up all the time. Maybe it's a sponsored ad, I don't know, but I've been seeing something where it's like you can do things three ways. You can do it fast, you can do it cheap, or you could do it like easy, right? So you can only get two of those. If you want it fast, fast and easy, it's not going to be cheap. Or I'm sorry,
yes.
and if
I
you
know
want
something
it, you know
you're
what the one I'm talking
asking.
about.
Yes,
So it's like you're getting what you're paying for, and you also have to remember, like for me, especially with Joe, I'm not the expert in this. Like, I don't know these things. I don't know about my estate. I don't know about like, if I had someone who can come and handle my finances, I would be sitting on a cloud. Like, thank God, like, just handle all my stuff. But that's what he assists with, right? So, like, those things that may take up, 4 hours out of one day to catch up on, and you have to do maybe every 2 weeks or every week, or you don't even want to think about even like that's where the convenience comes in. So I don't know. Me again, I'm an easy sale. So maybe for me, it was worth it. Like it doesn't matter to me because I got something done that I never have to think about, like, or stay awake at night about. And the only time I have to change anything with him, like the only time I should be calling him, which I call him all the time, but the only time I should be calling him is when I buy a new property. I don't even have to do it when I sell a property, do I?
no,
Yeah, just when I buy a new property or I have a new business or I have a different partner where I have to let people know, hey guys, this is just part of my trust. And God forbid something happens to me, like nothing's going to happen to this.
right,
Right.
yes, yep.
So you pay for that. And you guys, it's like, it's so unbelievably worth it. It's like unbelievably worth
Oh,
it because it's done.
yeah.
Like, it's
I
done.
tell everybody to do it.
Yeah.
There's certain times where it's more worth it. Obviously, like if you get married, you have kids, you buy a house, you should definitely do it.
Right.
If you're married, you have kids and you have a house, you should definitely do it. If you're single, you don't have a house, it's hard to convince somebody to do it at that point. You should have some documents, but for me, it's like I would rather um
Now,
it's yeah.
before I lose this question, if you are single and you
Yes.
don't own a home,
Yeah.
can you do it where the verbiage says, in the event that I do purchase a home, this happens?
Well, yeah. So how it
Okay.
works, but this is the thing is like with the trust, I have to put the house in the trust. So
Got it.
let's say you're single and you don't have any plans of getting married anytime soon, right? You create all the documents, and then when you buy a house, we can add the house to it. I can create a deed for you to
Yeah.
add it to
And
the
then you
house,
just put it into
and that's
your
it. And
trust.
then you're
Okay.
done. It's already set up. The majority of it is already set up. You just have to add the house
Yeah,
to it.
because that's what mine
Yeah.
was like. If I get married, then like I would have to contact you
Yes.
to just go over everything again because again, I have things with my family
Right.
that my spouse shouldn't be part of.
Yes.
But then at the same time, like let's say I don't get married, but I have kids, which my mom will kill me, but let's just say that that was to happen,
Yeah.
or I adopted or something, same thing. We would just go back in and just maybe change a few names or change who gets what, because I can do that while I'm alive because I have a revocable trust.
Yep. Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
Make changes to it.
Yes.
Yes.
Great, great, great.
Yep. All right. So that's about as much time as we have for today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Again, this is Chanel Shaba. Why don't you give your contact information again?
So again, we are, so I own a company called Beyond Lending. We are the mortgage company. And again, we do a lot with Joe. So we can, if there's ever a time that you need to talk about your home and also talk about your portfolio, we can all sit together and we can talk about it. I don't have to be in the room. He can be in the room because he knows more on your personal end, but we're located in Bloomfield Hills. We don't only do business in Michigan, we do business in 11 other states. Florida is a popular one. California is another popular one that we see in our community. But we do business throughout the country. We're growing. And to contact us, you can reach me again on my cell phone. It's 248 330 6475, or you can call our office line at 248 686 2082.
Awesome. Thank you. And then for all of your estate planning needs, you can contact me, Joe Dallo. My website is dalloestateplanning.com. You can read my blogs and learn more about estate planning. You can call me. My cell phone number is 248 914 8146, or you can send me an email at joe@dalloestateplanning.com. And this is a final, wrapping up episode of Joe Knows. And remember that Joe knows, so you don't have to.
Yeah, I know too. Just saying.